This is just going to be a random topics video, somewhat of a random rant. And before I get into that, just want to say if anyone that's happening of thinking of going to the Ring of Honor Hammerstein show coming up this Saturday, I got one extra ticket for the show. It's row 9, section C. Just the asking price will probably be $25. So if anyone that's interested in this ticket, just send me a message on here, and I'll get back to you. And now to the rant. First thing, obviously, the most thing that people are talking about now is Undertaker being stripped of the World Heavyweight title on SmackDown and where this is going to go. Hopefully, this is one of those things that could go in a good direction. This is one of those storylines that is either going to be one of those good angles WWE is going to do, or it's going to go in a bad way. The way I would do it is have Vicky Guerrero, she's the power hungry GM, and then have something like Teddy Long being a second GM of SmackDown, a face GM and a heel GM, and both of them will fight over the power of SmackDown, and at the same time drawing a wedge between the SmackDown World Heavyweight title, and I think it could go in a good route. Most likely they're probably going to have Undertaker and Edge take on each other at the Judgment Day pay-per-view, and that will settle who the champion is. Most likely, since they did this, Undertaker getting stripped of the title, it wouldn't shock me if Edge won the heavyweight title. But this does kind of shock me in the route that reports before were going around that Undertaker was going to have a lengthy title reign, possibly maybe WWE changed it or something with Undertaker changed where he wanted a lower work schedule and stuff like that, and with him requesting that could have been something wanting them to go in this route. But maybe they'll go in a tournament or something like that. But definitely one of those things that will give SmackDown a little buzz and some higher ratings and stuff like that. Because I will say I barely ever watch SmackDown. For the most point, I'll see how this goes. Most likely I just see what happens in the spoilers, but if they do something that looks good, I sometimes do check out SmackDown, so this could go in a good route. And at the same time, the one thing that SmackDown really needs at this point is the star power, because the star power with SmackDown isn't there. You have Undertaker and Edge, and then after you look past that, you really, really do not have anything, because Great Khali, he's going to be out for a little while, which I'm glad. Then you got Rey Mysterio out. He's going to be out for a little while, so you don't have him. Possibly something maybe with this 3-hour Raw that's coming in June, which I haven't heard anything. I know it's definitely going to be a 3-hour Raw in June, but I haven't heard anything if this possibly is going to be a WWE draft. If it's going to be a WWE draft, this hopefully will help the SmackDown brand, and as a whole help all the shows, because I think ECW needs a little help, but at the same time it's kind of a developmental type brand, so you don't want to put too much star power on there. SmackDown definitely needs it, possibly with maybe they should put CM Punk on there full time. That would be a good thing. And see, the other part is a very interesting thing within this week that Shimmer Women's Athletes has signed somewhat of a deal with TNA to be able to use their stars. This main deal was signed for the fact where you would have the stars like Cheerleader Melissa, Amazing Kong, and a few others that are Shimmer regulars still be able to be a part of the promotion. But still, this is a good thing. For one thing, I like to see some of the TNA knockout talents that haven't performed in Shimmer be a part of it. I would like to see Gail Kim be a part of a few shows, possibly working against Sarah Del Rey, Cheerleader Melissa, or even Sarah Stock. I think all those matches would deliver and be very good. Possibly maybe a Amazing Kong and Gail Kim feud. Next on to the part that this part is the non-wrestling parts, at least for a little bit, and this is with the NBA playoffs. So far, NBA playoffs hasn't been as good as what a lot of people were expecting. First round, some like the Suns and Spurs series wasn't as good as what it should have been. The Mavericks and Hornets series wasn't as good as what it should have been. Obviously, everyone expected the Lakers to do what they did, and surprisingly in the East, the two teams that should have won very easily were almost close to being defeated by two teams that shouldn't have even gave them a chance. And the 76ers almost taking the Pistons to it, and even more of a shocker, the Atlanta Hawks almost beaten the Boston Celtics in a Game 7 series. But both of those teams in their final game that won the series did show they were the better team. They just, I guess, didn't take these teams seriously, which does happen a lot of times within sports, where a team that's always going to be one of those teams that, they're going to win no matter what. They don't even have, this other team doesn't even have a shot. And the other team sometimes plays better that day than them and almost shocks them and actually wins. Obviously, no one's probably shocked that Kobe Bryant won the MVP this year, which I think he's actually deserving of it. And surprisingly, this is the first time in his career he's actually held this, which is another token under his cap. And I would say, he's definitely deserving of winning it. But I thought Chris Paul was a definitely top contender for the MVP. That's probably who I would have went with. But as far as what they have done with the team, I guess you could somewhat override it and say Kobe deserved it more. But I'm a fan of both players, so it really doesn't bother me. Now on to the part of the Dallas Mavericks and their lackluster playoff run this year, which was completely terrible. 2 years in a row, they got knocked out in the first round of the tournament, which is a terrible thing for them, and doesn't look good for their future. I think the Suns and the Mavericks really got hurt with the trades that they've done this season. The Jason Kidd trade failed, and the Shaquille O'Neal trade failed. Both of them didn't help the team at all, and really probably hurt the team more than they helped it, I would say, especially in the case of Jason Kidd. Jason Kidd, I know that a lot of people are fans of him. I view Jason Kidd as a very overrated player that doesn't have the skills and the ability to the level that he gets credited of having. I'm not saying he's a bad player, but obviously you cannot put him and Steve Nash in the same category. Steve Nash is a much overall better player, and Steve Nash does a better job with his teams. The reason why Jason Kidd did good in New Jersey was due to the fact of being around with a good, talented roster, and definitely two great players in Richard Jefferson and Vince Carter. And I think that really was the reason that made him such a good player, because he was around them. In Dallas, you have a good overall roster, but some of the roster is very inconsistent, especially one of the players in Jason Terry. He's a great player, great overall. When he has when he plays to his full potential, he's one of the tops in the league with what he does. But he always is very inconsistent. He's improved this a little bit, but he still hasn't got to the level of being fully, his skill always there for each game. Obviously with the NBA, with the 82 game season, then the playoffs, I could see why some players are like this and very inconsistent. And now on to the even worse part in their coach firing of Avery Johnson, which I think is another bad move for the Dallas Mavericks and doesn't make sense. I don't think it's going to help them. It looks like they're just going to be making a overall extreme change next year with their, overall what they're probably do with the roster. I don't know how much longer Jason Kidd's deal runs for. Hopefully, they do some good stuff next year. They need to just fix some things up this summer, possibly maybe do something with another trade. But obviously do not trade any players like Jason Terry or Dirk Nowitzki, or you would get completely fucked. That's one thing that they do not need to do. Obviously, I would stay clear of the trade route because it didn't work this past year when they did the Jason Kidd thing. But possibly maybe they'd get another coach. I heard Mike D'Antoni's deal's coming up as a coach, so possibly maybe Mark Cuban or the Mavericks management already's kind of talked to him and almost got him signed to a deal, which I think will be a good thing because I think he's a very good coach. But still, Avery's a good coach, so any of these teams that, won a very good coach that they need. I think Avery can do a good job for any of the teams, especially a very unexperienced team and a young team. I think he could do a good job with. Before this, I would say, Larry Brown could have been a potential coach for the Mavericks, but then he signed with the Charlotte Bobcats, which I think is a good thing for him because I think that team does have some core talent, and if utilized right and maybe get some other draft picks, possibly a trade, and Larry Brown's expertise as a coach, that could obviously help them out, and especially with them being in the Eastern Conference, which is the weaker of the conferences. I don't think anyone will argue against that. They can possibly, I wouldn't say be a contender, but they could, sneak in the 7th or 8th spot, because in the Eastern Conference, you can get in the playoffs with a losing record.